Hey everybody, welcome back to more Forza multiplayer. We're running the GT series cars this week at Mid-Ohio as the sun begins to set. We're starting in 18th out of 21 on this one, running the Viper today. The race is 11 laps, so we will need to pit mid-race, probably running the medium to medium strat. Anyway, let's get this one started. We see a BMW immediately hit the wall on the right, taking the widest line possible through turn 1. We take a pretty wide line as well, trying to avoid those proximity arrows on our left. We do get passed on our inside by another BMW in the form of a washed cheek. We'll actually see a good bit of them today as our paces later in the race were pretty similar for a while. For now though, going through the keyhole as the Viper gets pretty loose in front of us, we've got the inside line, so we're going to pull on ahead of washed cheek. That'll put us up into P17, wait no, looks like P16 as we get a really good run on old and moist, a fantastic mental image to have. As we head down to turns 4 and 5, they are going to stay really close behind. In fact, I get pretty nervous that one of them might lunge up the inside, but fortunately they don't. A little bit of bumper cars ahead of us though. That'll definitely slow our momentum through here as we try to let this unfold. We are going to get a bit of a run up on the inside, but you can see there's several proximity arrows on our right. We're going to get pushed wide here into the grass. Luckily it was entirely recoverable, but it is going to set us back a few positions. The Porsche is going to get a rough exit on that one, allowing us to go around the outside, but as we come up to turn 9, we are going to get a tap in the quarter panel. It's going to start to spin us out, the wheel going crazy, trying to bring it under control. Fortunately, we do get it back under control, but not without a couple collisions in the process. In fact, Yawning Nose getting half a second penalty there and spinning out as we go through turn 11, getting a free position back. That'll bring us into the carousel for the first time. We can see a whole mass of cars ahead of us, lots of positions to be gained. But for now, we're going to round out the first lap only in P16, so 2 net positions gained so far. Going into turn 1, I really want to get a good run on S-guards, and it looks like we are actually going to be able to do that on the outside. They take a pretty slow inside line, but 2 cars were actually off to the side there, so it's going to be a net position gain of 3 in one corner, better than we did the whole last lap. That'll take us back down to turn 2, or the keyhole again though, as we see a Viper ghost out ahead, 4 cars all clustered up, a little bit of contact between them. In fact, this Viper is just going to take out that Ford GT. That's going to give us the run and allow us to take 2 more positions, giving us a top 10 prospect nice and early as we watch a battle unfold in front of us between washed cheek and old and moist. Which side of the cleanliness spectrum will prevail? And it looks like through turn 4 it'll actually be washed cheek as they beautifully make a switcheroo back underneath old and moist. I try to take advantage of this battle myself, looking on the inside of old and moist. Going to be a little bit of a contact into turn 6, and wasn't really a great way for me to get through there, so we fall back behind for now. I know I have the pace on them though, so I don't think it'll be too long before another opportunity arises. In fact, as we come up to turn 9, we get really close behind, and they hold a really narrow exit, opening the door for us on the outside. So we'll be in a bit of a drag race as we come down turn 11, but it's not really going to matter, because as they stay alongside, they're going to go too wide, and I'm pretty sure they clipped the grass there as the Viper behind actually followed us through. But that'll take us through the carousel once again to round out the second lap, up into P9 from 18, so 9 positions so far after 2 laps. We're up behind Washed Cheek, who I mentioned we'll see a lot of in this race, and at this point we're only a little over 10 seconds behind the leader, so not too large of a gap between all the cars up front. We'll have to continue to see how it unfolds. Before too long, we'll see Washed Cheek actually catch up to P7. They'll start to engage in a battle ahead. Definitely opening the door for us to catch up and maybe make the pass ourselves. I'm hoping to be able to follow him through pretty quickly. As we go through turn 6 though, they are going to go ahead and make the pass, and we're just not quite going to be able to follow through. We're going to get stuck behind the Porsche for a minute. I definitely didn't feel great about this. I was nervous I'd lose touch with Washed Cheek ahead if I wasn't able to make the move anytime soon. Also feeling a bit nervous about the Viper behind if we aren't able to hold any sort of pace, but as we come up towards turn 11, they're going to end up missing the apex. We're going to go right up underneath and be able to get right up behind Washed Cheek yet again, and that'll put us in P8 to round out the third lap. For now, we will continue to follow them for a little bit. And as we come out of turn 2, or the keyhole on the 4th lap, we are actually going to see some dust up ahead. It looks like someone ended up off track. Both of us are definitely hungry for another position, and it looks like a pink Porsche in the form of Oliver Staten. We are going to manage to go by really quickly through turn 3, but it doesn't mean they're going to go away anytime soon, as we have to hit the braking zones for turns 4 and 5. And if I remember correctly, we actually had a couple decent battles in practice before the race. With that though, we're going to kind of form a bit of a group of 3 as we attempt to chase down the cars ahead of us. It seemed we were a little bit hesitant to battle each other at this point, because I think we didn't really want to slow down our pace. And there's a glimpse of other cars ahead, but not without a decent gap between us. So yeah, it really kind of stayed this way for an entire lap. which will bring us towards the end of lap 5, which is where things can start to get a little bit interesting because pit strategies start to become a thing. At this point, I am wondering whether or not I want to go ahead and go in. We've been in this group of 3 for an entire lap, wondering maybe if we could shake it up. But as we go into the carousel, we're going to actually see that Wash Cheek is going to end up bouncing out, so I decide to stay on track. Tires are still good for the moment, and that will put us up into P5 temporarily as we pass Scrum Muffin in the pits. Unfortunately though, as I'm blinded by the sun, I completely miss my shift before going into this corner and I lose a lot of momentum, which is going to let Oliver Staton come right up alongside in a drag race to turn 2, and he's not quite going to be able to pass me here. I'm able to hold the inside line through the keyhole, trying to make sure to leave enough space on the exit to not cause an incident, but coming down through turn 3, he's just going to have the speed on me. Unfortunately, there's just not going to be a lot I can do as I just slowly watch him go on by, thinking maybe I made the wrong decision to not go ahead and go in with Wash Cheek. As we come down to turn 4, I am going to give a brief look on the inside, maybe thinking I can take the position back quickly, but unfortunately the move just wasn't really there, was already too far back. I'm going to stay as close as I can behind him though as we come through these turns. In fact, I'm going to get a little bit too close through turn 6. There's going to be a light tap on the back. Unfortunately, that'll set us back a little bit, losing some momentum there. And unfortunately, this just really didn't shape into the fast lap I was hoping for, really thinking we're not going to get the undercut on Wash Cheek, because it is indeed going to go ahead and be time to pit this lap. My tires weren't showing yellow at the moment, but those bars are pretty low, and as we actually get up to the carousel, it's going to dip into that yellow for just a second before we go into the pits. And it looks like Oliver's going to end up going in as well, as we both run over all the tires that others ran into as they attempted their entry. But as I said earlier, we are still going to run the mediums for the second stint of this race. Definitely no refueling, as it looks like we already have 1 extra lap of fuel. In fact, it looks like Oliver and I were sharing the exact same pit stop, so good thing our cars were built to ghost. Now I did feel like I noticed on the pit exit here that Oliver ended up a little bit further ahead of me than when we went in. Perhaps a bit of an RNG game in pit time. But at the moment it doesn't really matter, because Wash Cheek does in fact go right on by, showing that the undercut did fail. And the Viper behind is actually getting a really quick run on me before we go into the keyhole once again. Fortunately for me, I'm able to get there and hold an inside line and get back out before he's able to pass. It's going to be a similar story as before though, as they're going to have a lot more speed going down this straight. I had this car more tuned for handling, so I had the aero quite high, and this is where we're going to see that negatively affecting the race. But anyways, their move is essentially going to be complete before we get to turn 4. I have to kind of concede the position for now. And also similar to before, we're just going to stay as close as we can behind through these turns to look for an opportunity maybe on the exit, but we're going to see ahead that Wash Cheek has a big moment going into the grass. It's going to really slow them down, and it's actually going to bring this group of 4 together, creating a rather large battle for P6. I found this both exciting and nerve-wracking, as I had seen Wash Cheek get pretty loose throughout the race, and then also the Viper and being involved in a small little incident or two. Actually looked to the inside of Wash Cheek for a moment there, but not really a good position to be in before going into turn 11. In fact, the Viper is going to get a bit of a hit on him, shoving him out wide there. But everything stays pretty steady. That'll take us into the carousel again as we round out the 7th lap before coming down the main straight and once again being absolutely blinded by the sun. The other racers' realistic floating screen names giving us a bit of a reprieve from the blinding light. But anyways, this will start our 8th lap. We have 4 total left. And we'll see that gap to the leader still holding pretty steady despite the battling at around 10.5 to 11 seconds. This is definitely going to be a really interesting lap for us though. We're going to make up a few positions, but certainly not in an orthodox way. For now, we're following Wash Cheek and the other Viper really closely, but as we head to turn 3, Wash Cheek is actually going to have a bit of a run on the Viper. They're going to kind of push their way alongside, they're going to drag race it down to turn 4. And Wash Cheek is actually going to kind of just push the Viper out a little bit. They're going to go into the grass, and that's going to put us up into P8. It definitely got pretty bumpy through there. I would have felt pretty bad if I had accidentally done that to somebody, but it's going to put us right up behind Wash Cheek. We can see 2 other cars ahead, and they're not that far, so there's definitely a lot of hope for gaining some more positions. For the time being though, we are once again going to follow Wash Cheek for a minute. As I had said, they had a decent and similar pace to ours, so it made more sense to me to kind of try to follow them for the most part and see if we could catch up instead of engaging in any battles that could slow us down. As we start to come to the end of this lap though, it's really not going to matter at all. Wash Cheek is going to have a major moment and just kind of go straight into the grass on the carousel. That'll give us P7 as a freebie, but as we come to the main straight, Oliver is going to really get blinded by that sun and just completely end up off track, giving us another freebie up into P6. So an incredibly lucky turn of events there, as a couple decently quick drivers got knocked out ahead of us. At this point though, things are going to settle a little bit until the next lap, so we'll skip ahead until we're blinded by the sun again, rounding out the end of the 9th lap. 2 laps left to go now. But as the sun retreats behind the trees and we go into turn 1, we're going to actually see that another Viper had ended up off track ahead of us, allowing us to really close the gap quickly on them. I'm not quite sure what happened, I couldn't get the replay to save for this one either, but we're going to blow by them pretty hard as we go into turn 2. Gonna hold a nice tight line through here to make sure they can't get the switcheroo up underneath. But anyway, that's gonna give us P5. This is gonna lead to a bit of a stressful end of the race though, as they're gonna hang out right behind me for a while. In fact, this is coming into the last lap, finally not blinded by the sun as we cross the line. You can see me checking behind to see how close they are at any given moment. But at this point, it really just feels like a race between me and Scrum Muffin. Bumpo La Galette's pretty far up ahead. They had switched to the softs after pitting late on the hards. And our gap to Sly Ninja up ahead has come down slightly from that 10 to 11 seconds. So we did have the pace to be up front. But at this point, none of that really is going to matter. I'm just really focusing on trying to keep P5. We have Scrum Muffin really close behind. I keep checking to see where they are. I'm figuring that they probably have the speed through here, and we can see the tents kind of coming off. They look to the outside, I go defensive on the inside. The proximity arrow switches quickly to the inside. I thought they were going to dive bomb it, but luckily they didn't. So we'll keep the lead going through turns 4 and 5, and in fact as we come out of turn 5, they're going to drop off a good bit behind us. That's going to make me feel a little bit more comfortable to round out the rest of the lap, but any mistake could still matter. I do also see that they have a half a second penalty, so worst case scenario, if they were able to make the pass, we probably could stay close enough to still go ahead and get P5 based on that. But at this point, it's just not really going to matter. They've dropped over a second behind us. I'm wondering if they're dealing with some tire wear here, and we're really going to go into the finish pretty smoothly and carefully in P5. So 13 positions gained on the day in this one, with decent pace overall, I'd say, but not the greatest. Just happy to be able to come into the finish and be able to see what's ahead of me. Felt good about the race though, it felt really clean. Definitely got lucky at a few moments in there, but we did have the pace. Based on best lap times, we can actually see that like the top 8 or 9 cars here were pretty consistently close to each other, so good race by everyone. Sly Ninja sneaking up to the lead there. In fact, he was so good at his job that you couldn't even see him on the podium at the end of the race. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're continuing to put out more. But until then, we'll see you next time.